Welcome into another episode of Everything is Logistics, a podcast for the thinkers in freight. We are proudly presented by SPI Logistics, and I am your host, Blythe Brumleve. We've got another amazing guest for you live from Manifest, the future of supply chain and logistics. Kristy Killingbeck, she is the Vice President of Operations, Consumer Packaged Goods at Ryder Supply Chain Solutions. Welcome in, Kristy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And this is, I don't want to put you on the spot, but this is your first podcast interview ever.
It is. It is my first. I've never done this before, so go easy on me.
Absolutely. I want to, this is a safe space for all of us here. But that's why we don't go live because, I'll screw up and then I want to edit this later on. So that's exactly why
I appreciate a good edit.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved with supply chain, logistics? It's always a fascinating story, I feel like, people's backstory.
I feel like my story is the least fascinating because as I watch podcasts and talk to people about their careers in logistics, they started off in biochem or they fell into transportation and it was never, their plan in life. My degree is actually in supply chain and logistics.
Oh, nice.
So I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but decided that a poli-sci degree didn't give me a lot of flexibility, so I was going to go into business. And when I got there, I knew that I liked problem solving, I knew I liked numbers, but I didn't want to be an accountant or a CPA. And so the college I went to had a big logistics program, and that was the beginning of the end for me. So I've always been in supply chain and logistics.
Oh, wow. So you're one of the rare ones that got started and just knew. Did you know immediately? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I love problem solving. And because of that, I really fell in love with logistics and the fact that every day is a new day, right? It's not that repetitive, same thing day in and day out. So once I got a taste of it, I just knew it was what I was destined for.
It's like we're all psychopaths that just love to solve problems constantly working in logistics.
Yes, I question that often, right? It'd be a lot easier to be able to punch in someplace, punch out. But supply chain is a 24/7 type of a job, and for some reason I love it.
Well, I think it's more or less like solving the bigger problems that exist in the world, and how can you get a little bit better each day? I mean, obviously the progression of being able to mail something across the globe in a matter of days. Sometimes, depending on how much you pay, you can get it in a little as a day. So I imagine for you, so you go to school, you get your degree, and then what happens after that? Where do you end up?
Well, so I was born and raised outside of Detroit. So
nice. I know the hand thing from Michigan.
So Southeast Michigan, right? So born and raised. So as a good logistics graduate in Southeast Michigan, I started off in the automotive industry. So I started off working in component plants for one of the big three. And I was working second shift, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, managing a crew of fork truck drivers.
Oh, wow.
And that's really where I cut my teeth. So that was one heck of a learning experience. It was a great experience, but I decided that's not what I wanted to do for my entire life. I didn't want to live in Detroit forever. So I packed up and moved to North Carolina, worked for a broker, IMC, intermodal marketing company, and worked there for a while. They moved me back to Detroit, and then I finally found my way to Ryder.
So you went from managing forklifts to managing trucks. And what are the big differences between managing a fleet of forklift drivers versus carriers?
There's some similarities. You hear some crazy stories from both the fork truck drivers and the drivers as well, right?
Right.
Why the product or the truck did not get to point A to point B on time, and trying to cut through what's the reality versus what's the story. So I did take a little bit from that, and what I will say is working in the plant in automotive kind of thickens your skin, right?
Oh, yeah.
So whether you're dealing in plant or you're working with carriers, you can cut through BS, you can figure out how to work with people, you can figure out how to navigate personalities, and so it was something I was able to build upon.
Are there any similarities between the two groups? Like I doubt there is. Maybe, I don't know.
No, it's pretty different.
Yeah.
It's pretty different.
So they're not worried about like dwell time or detention time, things
No.
like that.
No.
I don't think that as that question was coming out of my mouth, I was like, yeah, that's a dumb one. So, all right. So, what does your day-to-day look like at Ryder?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Vice President of Ops, and so I am responsible for half of Ryder's book of business in consumer packaged goods.
Okay.
So I have a warehouse portfolio of about 40 facilities.
Oh, wow.
And so I have about there's about 40 facilities and about 50 million square feet
Wow.
of warehouse space. So I have that, and it is really in non-consumables. So my customers are paper products, cleaning supplies, beauty care, and then all of the beverage. So I like to say I have leaded and unleaded. So all the beer, wine, and spirits, and then all the soft drinks, juices, all report up to me. And then I also have a team that manages all of the transportation management accounts that fall under CPG as well. So my group manages about $1 billion of freight under management.
That's incredible. So
yeah.
40 different locations all across the United States, North America. What does that sort of look like?
United States.
Okay.
It's really the United States.
Are there any differences between facility to facility, like East Coast to West Coast?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities throughout CPG companies. I'd say different geographies take on a different type of workforce flavor at times, but there really are more similarities than there are differences.
That's a geography. So how does that affect the workforce?
It's really about labor availability, the type of labor, whether it is more metropolitan based, whether it's more rural, how are the employees getting to work, are they driving, are they busing, is there mass transit? So a lot of that availability of work and the competition for that work as well.
And so it's like you're managing like the logistics of your people and then also the logistics of your clients as well.
Oh, absolutely. The HR strategy is really critical when we look at designing solutions for our customers.
Interesting. Okay, so now on, from the shipper side of things, what does sort of their expectations look like nowadays? I'm sure they've definitely evolved over the last few years since COVID sort of rocked everyone. How has that relationship evolved from the shipper to Ryder perspective?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, during the COVID years, it was how fast can they manufacture? How quickly could we get it into our facility and out to the customer base, right? Product was hand to mouth, trying to fulfill orders. So it was get product out really almost at any cost, right? Making sure that you can, they could get those point of sales. Now, right, with the economic changes and really the stabilization, it's really more about how do we find more efficiencies, how do we control costs better. So the conversations today are really dialing in on the KPIs, dialing in on our lean programs, and really looking at more automation type solutions in order to drive out people costs and drive predictability and consistency within the operations.
Are some of those optimizations, I imagine, different from your consumer packaged goods and some of those CPG products? As I imagine it probably is, as far as managing expectations on the shipper side?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Right now, it's we're seeing a lot of AGVs, so autonomous vehicles being deployed.
Oh, I thought you said ATVs, and I was like, wow, really?
No, AGVs that are being deployed throughout our customers' facilities.
Oh, interesting.
So it's really that automation of the pallet put away and the pallet pick to really allow employees to be more effective and efficient on the dock. So a lot of the conversation is about how do we design autonomous-based solutions and find that return on investment from those solutions.
Now, for the majority of your facilities, are they deploying autonomous technology themselves? Or there's like moonwalkers that are here. I feel like I've mentioned them a million times because I tried them out this morning. These shoes that you put on your feet that help the warehouse workers. Are there any kind of automational tools like that you're deploying inside these facilities to help out the warehouse worker?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few that we're certainly looking at, and that's not my expertise in space, but whether it be different voice pick and Google Glass type solutions, really what I am seeing more, right, is more about the flexibility of the autonomous forklifts. Being able to, again, really have that consistency and the efficiency in the moves.
What's the biggest change in forklift technology that you've seen since your early days versus today? Is there anything happening there?
It's really just, I mean, when I started the career, there was no autonomous, right? So really, it's just the deployment of the AGVs, and we're seeing the price point come down as well as a reduction in the return on investment as labor prices have gone up, labor wages. People are much more apt and willing to look at different type solutions.
Now, being here at Manifest, they have a really strong, sort of warehouse, robotics presence. It's really cool for, I come from like the asset-based, brokerage world, and Manifest was the first place that I really saw the whole supply chain under one roof. So I'm curious for you as, somebody with, your history, when you walk out on an expo floor like this, what excites you? Like what gets your juices going?
It's really exciting to see everything in one place, right? Because we've got different deployments throughout our network, but to be able to see everything in one place, seeing the actual robots, right? I didn't see the moonwalkers, but you see the robots that are out there putting together and building, right?
So cool.
It's very exciting to see that. We've have different auto store type technologies in some of the non-CPG facilities that we have today. So it's just really exciting to see what that new technology is.
And so when outside of coming to a conference like this, what does sort of your day-to-day, week-to-week look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the customer base, right, a lot of my time is spent working and attending QBRs, top-to-top meetings, working with the team and helping to develop different strategies for our customers. I am involved in a lot of the sales pursuits as well. So it's interesting because I think once you rise up the ranks, the phone calls you get are usually when things went really well, right? When you win an award, or when there are challenges and issues that get raised up. So I never know what every day is going to look like. There's always a new challenge, a new question, whether it be contracting or other issues at facilities. So it's a different day every day.
Which is why we all love this industry. Love and hate at times, I will say, from my
Absolutely.
perspective too, which I'm sure you share that sentiment. Now, obviously, I'd be remiss not to, sort of bring up the fact that we're both, women in supply chain, both been working in the industry for quite a while. And so when you come to events like this, what does it mean to you to sort of look around and see the growth of women within this industry?
Yeah, it is extremely exciting. So when I started in automotive and I said that I was working in a plant in the facility, there were most days I was the only female in the building, right? And so it was definitely a different time, a different look. Attending meetings, usually I'd be the only female around the room. And so what I'll say is, over the last 20 years, even being at Ryder, the demographics has changed, right? There's much more diversity, not just with women. And so that is extremely exciting to me to see that at the higher levels and to see more college graduates come in. And so being at an event like this and seeing women represented, from the shipper side, from the 3PL side, from the technology and automation side, it makes me really proud to be part of this industry because it has been an evolution over the last 20 plus years.
If you were to give advice to a woman that maybe is thinking about joining the supply chain industry, what piece of advice would you give them?
First of all, do it. I think it is an extremely rewarding career. There are so many different things that you can go and navigate, and different types of jobs that you can pursue. I mean, my experience and my background is in plant manufacturing. I was an industrial engineer. And then now and then I moved to transportation, and now I help run boxes, right, warehousing. So there's been a lot of growth, a lot of opportunity for me. And so do it, right, try it. Find a mentor, I think is a big one. Have somebody you can talk to. It doesn't have to be another female, it can be a male, but just really find that coach, that mentor that can help you navigate organizations, somebody that you can run things off of. And don't be afraid, right? My biggest advice for everybody is always raise your hand and say yes, right? Don't be afraid to take on a new challenge. Don't be afraid to go outside of your comfort zone because that's when you really excel.
You're dropping gems on the podcast for your first podcast interview ever. Now, from this show, so we started out as a marketing show and then shifted got a little bit of popularity, was fortunate enough. So about a year ago, we took the show independent. We're able to cover more of these like sort of wider range topics, but I still like to go back a little bit to the marketing roots a little bit. So I'm curious, I have a few questions that I ask each guest that comes on the show, or I try to ask each guest that comes on the show. So for you, how do you think about marketing when it comes to maybe your personal brand? Are you out there trying to, market yourself, or are you kind of, you like staying behind the scenes?
That's a really timely, interesting question because it's something I need to do more of. I think that, again, I've been in the industry for over 20 years, that historically, especially in the operations rank, it wasn't something that we focused on, right? The company worked on marketing, the individual, you just kind of kept your head down and did what you needed to do. When you see the impact of LinkedIn and now podcasts, et cetera, it's something that I need to focus on more, and I guess would be advice for those coming up to make sure they start doing it earlier and often. I think it helps tremendously for people to have a comfort level with you, to be able to reach out, right? And a big part of my job is not only current operations, but to help grow the organization. So I need to do more of marketing. It's one of my New Year's resolutions, right? And so hopefully there'll be changes over my LinkedIn profile in the coming days, as I continue to do that.
Heck yeah, I mean, you're already off to a pretty good start. So you're attending conferences and then you're on a podcast. So I mean, that's a pretty good starting place. All right, I think I might know the answer to this one, but I'll ask it anyways. What's your favorite social media platform and why?
My favorite social media platform and why? Work-related or just in general?
In general.
In general, I think I'm old school still. So I travel a lot. So friends and family are still on Facebook.
Yeah,
and it's still the connection of what's going on, whether it be at school, with family members, etc. I'm on the road almost every week, so that keeps me grounded and involved in a way. So no, it's not whether the Gram or TikTok or anything like that. I'm old school Facebook.
Well, I thought for sure you were going to say LinkedIn because that's the consensus answer, I think, for a lot of folks out here. But one thing I just wanted to pull on for a minute. You're on the road every week?
I would say 3 out of 4 weeks a lot. Yeah.
Holy crap! Are you just visiting all the facilities, or?
Yeah, visiting facilities, operations, customers. Right. When you have operations throughout the country, that face-to-face, right? That face-to-face interaction, relationship. Means a lot, right? And through COVID, it was really difficult. So I think it's important to get out there, to shake the hands of the people that come into work day in, day out, right? They don't have the option, when you think about a warehouse, they don't have the option to work from home, right? So really to go and to let them know that, we care, we appreciate the work that they're doing for us, for the customers. So it's not every week, right? But it's a significant amount of time.
Yeah, gosh. Dang, that's a lot of traveling. What about conferences? Are you going to any other conferences?
This is my first conference too. I've always focused so much on the operation. Yeah, I know. It's a year of first. I mean, my New Year's resolution.
You are knocking them out. I think it's like February 4th and the 5th, the time we're recording this. So yeah, you're kicking it off very effectively so far. All right, next question. What's your favorite SaaS tool that you use every day that isn't your own?
My favorite SaaS tool that I use every day that isn't my own.
It's like Google. Somebody said Google Docs earlier.
I can't say Teams.
I guess you can. Yeah.
Say Teams.
You're one of the rare ones that does say Teams, though.
Yeah, I think that the Teams, the connections. I'm all about the connections, relationships. Being able to see people on video. We use the Teams groups a lot, right?
Cool.
So there's a lot of connectivity, that's why I do a lot of data mining for information as well,
interesting.
too. So yeah, I use Teams.
How are you using it for data mining, like AI, Copilot?
Data mining is a little bit more of maybe more just as data collection, right? So a lot of the information that we use on a regular basis, we have stored in different teams, different groups, and then can communicate in that manner. So.
And what kind of information are you looking for?
Customer-related information.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And I imagine with the plug-in to, obviously ChatGPT and that partnership with Microsoft and Teams, that it makes pulling out any interesting, data points that you've pulled from some of that, that early, I guess over the last year or so that everybody started adopting AI. Are there any interesting things that you can share, or nuggets of information that you've learned?
Not from an AI perspective.
No, that's not from that perspective.
No.
But maybe from just a holistic approach to, customer management, team management.
Yeah. I think from a customer management, business management, really from a BI&A perspective, I think there's been a lot of investment at Ryder from a technology perspective, and just making sure that we've got the data centralized, right? We utilize Ryder Share as our visibility platform, really a tool that we can access from anywhere in the country, right? Looking at how the operations are performing, whether I'm at home, whether I'm on the road, and being able to pull that data, being able to understand how operations are running, how individuals are performing, is become a key part of the day-to-day.
Heck yeah, that's great insight. All right, favorite freight business that isn't your own
Favorite freight business?
or supply chain? I think they're all kind of the same terminology.
So give me an example.
So I tried out the Moonwalkers today, and I can't stop talking about them. So I think that's my favorite right now.
Okay.
Because so I'm going to give this, it's like the third time I feel like I've said this today, so apologies to the audience if they've heard it a bunch. But a typical warehouse worker, and I'm sure maybe you know these stats, walks 30,000 steps in one day, and these Moonwalkers are like shoe attachments.
I think I saw people walking around with them. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So it helps to cut that down in half.
Okay.
And so it's about $1,300, I think, for a pair of them. They started out on Kickstarter, but now they have all of these, convention centers and warehouses using them in order to.
But how am I getting my steps in?
Right. True. Well, I guess you're getting half of that instead of the full thing. So it could be, that aspect. Instead of walking 15 miles a day in a warehouse, you're walking about 12, or not 15, but half of that. Can't do math right now. We're in Vegas. It's been a long day. All right, so favorite freight business of can you think of any that maybe you've seen on the expo floor?
I think that might be my new favorite now. I'm
You
going
gotta
to
go
check it
try
out.
them. Yeah. They can let you demo them too.
Okay, that's where I'll be headed.
All right, Moonwalkers it is. All right, what is a book or podcast that has changed your perspective on something?
Again, probably more old school, right? Or an older one would be Atomic Habits, right? I think really taking the slow and steady, right? Making small changes that roll into big changes in your life. Really busy, and so it's very easy to make excuses for not taking the bite at the apple and making those changes in your life. So I think that was one that was really impactful.
Oh, love that. Great answer. And great book, by the way. All right, and last one. What's your favorite supply chain or logistics fact?
So I don't know if so much the supply chain fact, but as I had indicated, I have a responsibility for Ryder for all of beer, wine, and spirits, right? So I think I'm the envy of a lot of my counterparts. And I don't know so much of the fact as it is seeing it in operation, but tequila production coming out of Jalisco and Guadalajara, and seeing those, the amount of tequila that is moved northbound from that region through Mexico into the U.S. and being a part of a lot of that transportation in Mexico, the cross-border and the distribution within the U.S. is something that's pretty exciting. So we move that tequila for a lot of our customers, and seeing the volume that is moving into the U.S., especially during COVID, was pretty fun.
That's a great one. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've covered the logistics of tequila before on the show, and it's just such a fascinating process. I'm a big tequila fan. We are in Vegas, so I've enjoyed a couple already. But yeah, that's a great one. So I appreciate you answering those questions for me. One last thing, anything that you feel is important to mention that we haven't already talked about?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity for being my first. We'll see if there's any others after
Heck yeah.
this. But,
I can introduce you to the podcast community, that's for sure.
I really appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Now, where can folks follow you, follow more of your work? LinkedIn, maybe?
LinkedIn, absolutely.
All right, perfect. We will put a link in the show notes, and then if anybody obviously is listening that's interested in getting in touch with Ryder and and using some of the Ryder services, 90-year-old company, you guys cover a lot of ground. Reach out to you, reach out to Ryder directly. How does that work?
Yeah, no, you can absolutely reach out to me. and I can help navigate. And then Ryder.com website also has the intake to be able to identify, what company, who you are, what kind of services that you're looking for. As you indicated, 90-year-old company, 91 years old this year,
Wow.
and really have true, port-to-door services. So whatever it is you're looking for, whether it be warehouse, transportation management, co-pack, co-manufacturing services, e-com, we can help serve all of that.
Kristy, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
I'm glad I was your first. Which is very appropriate to say when in the town of Sin City. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it.